As we have reached the end of the second week of testimony in the double murder trial of Alex Murdaugh, we want to bring back our friend and expert, former U.S. Attorney Pete Strom, with decades of trial experience. And what a week it has been, Pete. This 10 days feels like it's been a month. But the big question I have for you today, and our viewers haven't understood this, so let's explain it. Now, right now, we, the public, are hearing testimony from financial experts talking about Alex Murdaugh's alleged financial crimes. The jury is not hearing that. Judge Clifton Newman still has to make that decision. Obviously, the prosecution really is pushing to have this admitted. Explain to our viewers what this means and why this is so pivotal for the case.
Yeah, I was down there all day Thursday, in the courtroom, out of the courtroom, behind the scenes, because we have a couple witnesses involved in this thing. So what's going on is typically evidence of bad character is not admissible in a case, okay? Because just because you're an SOB, all right, and you spank puppies or whatever, that doesn't make you a murderer. In this case, just because you're a thief, and clearly Murdaugh has stolen a lot of money from a lot of innocent people, law partners, banks. He's ripped off, the Satterfields, lots of people. Bad guy, all right? But does that make you a murderer? Well, the courts worry that a juror will start hearing bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, and not focus on the evidence of the murder, just on the bad character. So typically, judges will not let that kind of evidence in because it's too prejudicial, all right? And there are exceptions to that. And what the Attorney General's office is trying to do is get that evidence in, saying that's the motive, that he owed all these people money, he'd ripped off all these people, and the way out of this was to somehow kill his wife and family, create some sympathy, and that's why he did this, therefore that's relevant. Boy, that's a slippery slope for the prosecutor, though, because you are starting to walk down that path of an appeal. And every time Judge Newman lets something in that's just a little bit more remote to the actual crime, then there's another chance for an appeal. All right, we know that Alex tried to kill himself or faked a murder, okay, I guess that's a better way to say it, a few weeks after all this happened. And that's when the cousin Eddie was involved. He said he was shot. All right, well, does that come in? All right, I mean, he's lied about it. When you hear that, you say, maybe this guy's off his rocker. Should that kind of evidence come in? Should all this theft come in? Should only part of it come in? So what Judge Newman is doing now is he's going piece by piece, and they're having to put up each witness and what they're going to testify about, and then he's going to say, here's what I'm going to let in, here's what I'm not going to let in. Again, the Attorney General needs to be careful, because if he goes too far, he might get the conviction, but he might get overturned at the end. Yeah.
All right, let's go back in chronological order now with some of the witnesses we have heard from this week and some of the big moments of the case, and I want to get your take. We're going to start with SLED agent Britt Dove. He is a digital forensics expert, and he was talking about the moments that he says that through his investigation, Alex Murdaugh's phone didn't move. He said from 8:09 until 9:02, the night of the murders, there were no steps. The prosecution alleging that Alex left his phone back at the house when he himself traveled down to the dog kennels. What did you make of that moment?
Boy, did everybody want to go throw their cell phone in the river after that. I mean, lawyers, I've been a prosecutor, we think we're on the cutting edge and we know what's all on your phone. We all learned this week there's a lot more in our phone than we thought. Every time a phone is picked up, if it's rotated and it goes from portrait mode to whatever, it's looking for the Face ID, and it makes a note in the phone that the phone camera was open. If you move a few feet, okay, it records that. So this is going to be critical evidence in this case, that the data that they're pulling off this phone, but all the phones, the other piece is the Snapchat. We saw from this phone evidence that the son sent a Snapchat to a friend from the kennel Now there's a little question on that because it looks like the Snapchat didn't go out right away. You know, sometimes you can put something on your phone if you're on an airplane or you're in a remote area. When you land, then it all gets sent. Well, the timing of this is critical, and the service down there wasn't good. And I picked up something in the testimony that Snapchat may have gone out a little later than it was actually recorded. And you say, okay, well, this may mess up the timing thing. But remember, in the phone, there's also a data entry anytime the camera comes on.
Exactly when it was recorded.
Yeah,
All right, let's skip ahead to that testimony since we're talking about that. That still was Britt Dove, the SLED agent. He did testify he heard 3 distinct voices on the phone. But another pivotal moment for me, and the one that had me just in awe this week, was the friend, Rogan Gibson. You talked about his dog, Cash, was the dog that was staying in the Murdaugh kennels. He was texting Paul, hey, something is wrong with the dog's tail. I want to see videos. He said on the stand, I am 100% positive the voices of Alec, Maggie, and Paul are on that tape. Now, the problem, of course, Alec had already told SLED investigators that he was not down at the dog kennels that time. He said he was napping at the house and then went to his mother's and did not travel to the dog kennels until the bodies were discovered. What sort of trouble is this going to get the defense in?
Huge problem for the defense. Huge problem. Because I don't know why he talked to the police a second time, but he did. But that's what he told them, and obviously that wasn't the truth. The other critical part of that is that Snapchat, he had on a long sleeve shirt, had on long pants. When the police got there after the murders, he had on a white t-shirt, short pants, changed clothes.
Change clothes. So when then they had the discussion and Dick Harpootlian tried to push one of the investigators that said that she didn't find any bloody clothes in the house, well, we know that he drove to his mother's house.
He did.
So.
You know, if you're Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, and Alec, who's a lawyer by training, does he testify? That's what they got to be thinking about. And I believe their plan has been all along for him to get on the stand. They think that he will be sympathetic, he can say he had a drug problem, and that, you know, went through all this with his son, and he can explain all this away with this drug problem. But boy, now we got to explain the change of clothes. We got to explain where the blood was or wasn't on his body. He's going to have to explain all this money if we get into that. And it's getting to be a little overwhelming what he would have to explain away. So they're going to have to really pray hard and think hard about whether they put him up there now.
All right, let's go back to the very beginning of the week because we haven't talked about something we talked about a lot last week during the testimony, and that was this .300 Blackout rifle. Now, the SLED agent Jeff Croft testified that in all his decades of experience in law enforcement, it had never been used as a murder weapon. And then we found out from the cousin, John Bedingfield took the stand, the DNR agent who made these guns, assembled them in his free time, that he made not one, not two, but three Blackout rifles for the Murdaugh family. Obviously, the prosecution trying to show the family was very familiar with this highly unusual, highly expensive weapon.
Yeah, so it's an AR-15, okay? It's the same thing we read about and hear about assault weapon, but they've modified the caliber to make the bullet more powerful in the sense that it expands in the body faster. AR-15 bullets usually penetrate, they go right through a body. So if you're shooting a wild hog or something, you want something that creates deadly energy in the body. So what they've done is taken a basic assault weapon AR-15 and modified it to this .300 Blackout. It's a fairly new technology. I've never seen one, but obviously they have 3 of them, or had 3 of them.
Now, where do you think that the defense is going to go from here, Pete? Because in my opinion, as a journalist, I have been under a headset listening to every moment of this testimony this week. It seems to be, like you said last week, that they had to put out the dots and start connecting them, that the prosecution has done an excellent job at this. Where do you see this going from here?
You know, this is still a circumstantial evidence case because they don't have a gun in anybody's hand. They don't even have a gun, okay? And the motive is not the best, okay? This is, yeah, they're trying to create this motive in front of the jury with these financial crimes. Here's another thing I raised last time we talked. The jury. Jury's from down there. Small community. Everybody knows about this case. Even though they raised their hand and said they didn't know or they could make up their mind, every one of them knows about this. So if I'm the prosecutor and I'm worried about an appeal, which you gotta be getting into all this financial crimes, do you really want to put all that in? Because guess what? The jury already knows it all. They know he stole from all these people. It's been all over the news, all over the paper, and you can't take it out of their mind. So if I'm the Attorney General, I'm not going to be overly aggressive about putting all this in because I frankly think it's in the jury's mind anyway.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much, former U.S. Attorney Pete Strom. We appreciate your expertise.
Good to be with you.